Baba Yaga is one of the best-known figures in Slavic folklore. An old woman living deep in the forest, in a hut that stands on chicken legs and turns to face visitors on command. She's usually described flying through the air in a mortar, steering with a pestle, sweeping away her tracks with a broom. Unlike most fairy tale villains, she doesn't have a fixed role. In some tales she's a child-eating threat, in others a difficult but fair figure who tests the hero and rewards success. This video covers what the source tales say, what her name may originally have meant, and what scholars think the figure represented before 19th century collectors fixed her into the version most people know today. Baba Yaga's name is made of two parts, and only one is settled. Baba is consistent across Slavic languages, generally meaning old woman or grandmother. In Old Russian, the word could also refer to a midwife, sorceress or fortune teller, and it's the root of the modern Russian word for grandmother, babushka. Yaga, the second half, is genuinely unresolved. Related words across Slavic languages point toward horror or shudder in Serbian and Croatian, anger in Slovene, disease or illness in Old Church Slavonic, and witch or evil woman in Polish and Old Czech. Alexander Afanasiev, the same collector who first published Baba Yaga's stories, proposed a connection to a Proto-Slavic word for snake, paralleling the Sanskrit word for serpent. Other researchers have gone further, suggesting Baltic roots meaning strength or comprehension, which would flip the name's meaning from menacing to something closer to reverence. No consensus exists. Baba Yaga's story circulated orally for an unknown length of time before being written down. The earliest confirmed written record dates to 1755, though artistic depictions referencing her appear at least as early as the 17th century. The standardised version most people know, the hut, the mortar and pestle flight, the fence of bones, largely comes from 19th century collectors, chiefly Alexander Afanasiev, who gathered oral tales from across Russia, Ukraine and Belarus into published collections. The hut itself stands on chicken legs, deep in the forest, capable of turning to face a visitor who speaks the correct request. Folklorists generally treat it as a threshold marker, between the ordinary world and a supernatural or death-associated realm. One interpretation, connected to folklorist Vladimir Propp, ties the image to older Slavic funerary customs. Some northern Slavic communities practiced above-ground burial, placing the dead in small wooden structures raised on posts. Under this reading, the hut echoes a burial structure, and Baba Yaga represents an early image of death, consistent with her epithet the bony one and her one skeletal leg. This remains a proposed interpretation, not settled fact. The detail most retellings skip is that Baba Yaga isn't consistently a villain. Propp classified her recurring narrative function into three possible roles: a donor who gives the hero a magical item or guidance, a villain who threatens or opposes the hero, or a genuinely ambiguous figure fitting neither cleanly. The clearest example of her testing role is Vasilisa the Beautiful, the heroine sent into the forest carrying a small doll left by her deceased mother, arrives at Baba Yaga's hut, is set impossible household tasks, but is secretly helped by the doll overnight. By morning, satisfied, Baba Yaga keeps her word and lets Vasilisa go. The story rewards competence and quiet resourcefulness rather than confrontation. Some tale traditions describe her as one of a trio of sisters sharing the same name, each encountered in sequence, each posing a further test. She also has a male counterpart in East Slavic tradition, Koschai the Immortal, whose name derives from bone. In some tales, Baba Yaga is cast as his mother or aunt, tying her again to death and bone imagery. Scholars don't treat Baba Yaga as a single fixed symbol. One reading treats her as an archetypal death figure tied to older burial customs. A second treats her as a personification of the forest itself, an untamed boundary between safety and danger. A third structural reading treats her narrative role as more important than her literal identity. She exists to filter the prepared from the unprepared, rewarding cleverness rather than punishing failure for its own sake. Which interpretation fits best usually depends on which regional oral tradition a given telling descends from. before 19th century collectors fixed it into the standardised version, now told almost everywhere.